Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And this is episode 64. What do you got for us?
It's the Beatles edition because will you still need us and will you still feed us? Listening to episode 64.
That ain't bad. That ain't bad. For you, that ain't bad. Nice job. Nice job.
Stop.
So anyway,
God, you are insufferable. Don't burn your tongue on that microwavable pineapple pizza you bought there, Gardner.
All right. Hey, so a couple things going on. Today's topic is going to be cutting into your gaming time, and what we mean by that is, I personally have spent the better part of 3 nights printing, literally 3 nights printing and cutting cards for different games, and then getting my envelopes ready and printing the labels with the team logos and the year so I can put them in the envelope and file them so I know what team is what. And that was 3 nights of non-gaming. And so we want to know, how crazy do you guys get, prepping for the game? Because that's cutting into your gaming time. Can that be fun? Is that fun? Is it fun cutting cards and getting ready for the game? And also, do you set up your table a certain way? Because we've seen a lot of pictures, especially in the Digital to Dice Facebook group. People have some really nice setups on the table, and I can imagine it takes some time to set that up. So again, that cuts into your game time. And then also some of the things that you do when you do your streams, when you play the computer games, you put the logos in, you put the fields or the rinks or the courts in, you put in the player pictures, the team colors. So there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes getting ready to play the game. So today we want to talk about, cutting into your gaming time.
And also, if you play cards and dice, do you take time afterwards to compile your stats? Does that?
Stats. If you do stats by hand, or what do you put them on the Excel or whatever? Anything beyond
Excel, but
anything beyond the computer is what I say. If you're playing a PC game, then it does all the stats for you. But if you're playing on the table and keeping stats, so we're going to talk a little bit about that today in our main topic. We're also going to be hinting on some Black Friday sales. We put out some feelers on our Facebook page and a couple of the Facebook groups and on the Delphi forum. So if you're a game developer, if you know a game developer, if you're aware of any sales, let us know, because next Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we're going to really try to crank out a show for you next Wednesday, and we're going to try to give you the rundown on what we found for gaming deals and gaming sales, because not everybody does them. Most people do. Most companies do. And I got my eye on a couple of things, and I guess we can get into that with what we're playing there when we get into that segment there. But there's a handful of games I'm looking at here. I'm looking at picking up some Downey games. Play's having a sale, I believe, so I'm really looking forward to picking up Red, White, and Blue Racing. So I was watching Al Wilson's videos today on how to play that. And what's really great is if you can catch a good video on a game, when you're done watching the video, you kind of know how to play it.
Yes.
And so when you get the directions and you're like, oh, man, this all makes sense, instead of going in cold. So good job by him. And it was him and a few other people that did the golf videos. I think Earl did one, Al did one, and there was somebody else. And I'm sorry if I forget who did a video, but the video was fantastic. When I got done watching that video, I knew how to play the game, and it just was really easy. So a few things like that I'm looking to pick up. Let me see. Oh, do you know what else I've been doing too? I just stumbled on this on YouTube. I've been watching this guy, and I forget his name now, but he's a young guy in Sweden, and he's playing for one of the Sweden hockey teams. Okay. Not the national team, but you know how to play European hockey.
One of the club teams in Sweden. So
I stumbled on this video late last night, and it was just like him and his buddy. I think they're from the States or Canada maybe, and they went out to Sweden to play hockey, and it's how he's just getting railroaded out there. How they brought them out there, and they said that you're going to get an apartment for $500, whatever the dollar is out there, a month, and then you're going to do this with a team and that with a team and the whole bit. And he gets out there. and it wasn't $500; it was $1,000, and they were there a month.
That's a huge difference, especially for a kid.
And the guy raised the rent to $1,500 a month, and so they were like, "Screw this, we'll just go to a hotel." And then they weren't playing them as much on the team, and just the agent was like, "I don't have anything in writing," and the guy's like, "You're my agent. Why don't you have this in writing? I wanted the $500 a month in writing. I wanted to know what's going on with the team," and so it's just about his adventures for going to Sweden, trying to play some pro hockey in Sweden or whatever kind of hockey he was playing, because he wanted to have, he was trying to build a resume as a goaltender. Okay. And he's like, I'm not playing, I'm not making money, I'm getting screwed over here. And it's been interesting watching his videos. So it's almost like a warning to young kids. They're like, hey, if you think you're going to come over here and play hockey in Sweden, there's a couple of things you might want to follow up on. So it's been interesting, because I've always wondered that, the people that go to Europe and play, what's that like,
I follow a couple of pro bowlers who will do a vlog, essentially is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
After each week on tour. And since they're not superstars by any stretch, and you're not making millions, pro bowling kind of goes through the ins and outs of just the grind of going through from week to week, and you have to finish in a certain position to get a paycheck, and how they all share apartments and stuff, on just life on the road. And they all keep it very positive, even when they don't do very well. But you tend to root for them if you actually watch a bowling telecast on television, because you know them. Brad and Kyle. Okay. They didn't grow up together, but they're good buddies. And so, yeah, life on the road. And I don't want to say a minor sport tour, but it'd be like kind of watching a AA or a AAA baseball player.
Okay, yeah.
It's not all handed to them.
Yeah. That's it. But it was just, so it was fun watching this guy talk about the frustrations and, his agents, and, how just, wow, they come out here looking for something, and they're basically packing up and leaving. They're going home. They're taking that ball and not going home.
They're going home.
Yeah, because you can't blame them. The stuff he's saying, it's like, it's just they're just not taking it very serious.
Told one price, and the price you actually gets $1,000 more than what you've been bargained for.
Yeah. So it's like, I said, and then I guess the place they looked at was like a barn. It's like, no, we're not staying here. So they really, it's just interesting to see how that all panned out. So, and I'll have to check the name of it, but it was just fun watching, because it's like it kept popping up on my feed. Being a hockey guy, it's like, if I'm like, okay, I'll watch some of his videos, and they're like 5 to 15 minutes long. He just talks about like what's going on for his day, and I guess they held his gear. They had to sneak in, almost break into the hockey rink and go into the locker room to get their own gear back. He's just like, this is nuts, man. He says, we're going to sneak in and go get our own gear back, and so we can go play hockey somewhere. So, yeah, something else that was just kind of fun, some of the things you find. Anyway, all right, so what do you think, Aunt Becky, and what we're playing?
Oh, sure. Aunt Becky's wishing she wasn't in jail for Thanksgiving.
Well, I mean, can they have more than 10 people in the prison for Thanksgiving? I mean, how's that going to work?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so prison you can have more than 10.
You can have 10, but you probably have sneeze guards or something like that between you. Don't eat the salad. Don't eat the salad.
Yeah, I know, right? So anyway, things we've been playing here. Why don't you go first?
Oh, gosh. I was trying to think about what I've done in the last week. Let's see. We did the most recent game of my Montreal Canadiens 89 replay, and we had some jerk come in the first intermission to poo-poo the greatest team in hockey history, the Montreal Canadiens. So how do you feel about ruining that stream, Gardner? My concerned subs are concerned.
That was I got to say that was fun, because I was sitting there on the table cutting my cards, and hence what we're talking about today. And you said, I'm going to have you on the show, but I think it's just going to be audio. So I was just sitting there, my scruffy hair and my yucky T-shirt, and I'm not even looking at the camera cutting my cards. And I look back, and there I am on camera on your stream. I'm like, you didn't tell me I was on video. I would have put on makeup. I would have put on my face. But it was fun. I didn't know you could do that. So I was listening to your game, so I got to chime in a little bit. From what I understand, boy, it was like a last-second comeback and then overtime. And
that's right. Yeah, it was Pittsburgh and Montreal, and with 11 seconds to go, it was 3-2 Pittsburgh. Montreal had the goalie out, Brian Haywood. Bobby Smith scored the game tire at 19:59. And then Guy Carbonneau won the game with about a minute and change to go in overtime.
Bullcrap.
Yeah. And I kept seeing in my live chat, rigged.
Oh, yeah.
Unsub permanently.
Yep. When I saw that late goal, I was like, yep. I actually deleted Action PC Hockey off my computer after I saw your game.
You did. I bet you did.
Maybe.
So, and
you did some soccer, right?
So I did soccer yesterday, Tuesday. It was Brazil and the Ivory Coast, not Ivory Soap.
I thought it was Ivory Soap. I says, oh, Ivory Soap's got a team. Are they sponsoring a team? What's going on here?
99 and 44, 100% pure, which is a lot more pure than you are, Gardner.
And they were such a clean team, too.
Or a clean team. And they threw a surprise on Brazil. It's the second big surprise I've had in that tournament so far.
What was the name of the soccer game?
It's Classic Soccer. It's available through ASG Games.
And a PC game.
And it is a Richard Hanna computer design. Anthony, I think, is the first name of the actual designer of the game itself. And as we'll talk about when you talk about PC Replay Basketball a little bit later on, it really is a pure card and dice port of the game Classic Soccer. And so, and it feels like it's tough because those World Cup sets, they're only playing 5 or 6 games at most. And to try to get cards to feel like something with a sample size that small is pretty remarkable. So I've been featuring that once a week or once or twice a week live at lunch. That's just kind of fill some time until the new Action PC baseball game comes out and I start 1949. But it's just something different on the channel. And I can tell you because that was the South African World Cup. And so that's the one with all the horns.
Yeah.
And because of the time difference between here and the East Coast of the United States and South Africa, the early game of the day would be on when I would be getting washed up at 7:30 in the morning. So the guy that was helping me get up is a huge soccer fan. And so we'd be watching those games while I was taking my bath.
That's kind of cool.
And so a good game is any game that you play that makes it feel like you're actually doing the event that you're trying to replicate. And that game does it. I know for people who look at these games and aren't, casual fans like you are of soccer or horse racing or tennis or whatever, trust me, these games are well enough designed that you get, it feels like you're actually participating in that match.
Nice.
It is a good game. So those two things, and I did a test run of Thoroughbred Racing game, which desperately needs a patch. We ran the Dave Gardner Mile. Had nothing to do with CJ or Molten Pizza or anything like that. But that was a lot of fun. If they get it fixed, then I can do some live racing on the channel because it allows you to bet, set up multiple accounts to bet. And so it really kind of gives you that experience of going to the track, putting money on the horses that you think you're going to win, running the race, and then getting fake money at the end.
Yeah, I think I downloaded the demo and I played it. And it was kind of fun watching it run. I didn't do any of the betting. I just kind of rolled the dice and watched. I tried to do it manually, and then I watched the computer do it. And I didn't really read any directions. I just kind of jumped right in. So,
but that's not a Richard Hanna game. That's a Bill Salm design game, and again, it's such a niche sport. I mean, that's not one you're not going to go to a party and go, you know what I want to play.
Yeah.
I want to play a good horse. It's not something that's going to come up.
Yeah.
When you're talking about how bad Madden may or may not be, you know what I want? I want a good horse. That's not something you're going to have with a couple gin and tonics and some pizzas.
Mm.
But so the audience is limited for that anyway, but it doesn't mean that the game designs aren't good. So that's pretty much what I've been playing.
I stumbled on to Replay PC Basketball.
What got you thinking about? I
don't know. I don't know how this happened. Actually, I don't know if it was I saw a YouTube video or something come up. I really don't know how this happened. you know what I think it was is I've been trying to play some. I mean, the Action PC new basketball is great with the chalkboard. I love that.
It's the best version, I think, of the game ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I tried to play some strat basketball, and I'm having problems with the animations and the ball speed, and I guess a few other people are too. And it's just really painful to play right now because of the speed of it. So I guess I could turn off all the animations and just play the cards version of it. But I got it because I did like the animations. It did, provide some visual eye candy, so to speak. So I've been having problems with that. So I don't know how this happened, but I ended up downloading the demo for Replay PC Basketball, and I got to tell you that I watched one guy. I was watching people play, but they had it on super fast mode, and I couldn't follow. I was like, oh man, I got a headache following this. Finally, one guy turned the speed down and walked you through what he was doing in the game, showing you what was what. And as soon as he slowed it down, it made all the sense in the world. And so I downloaded the demo and I played it, and I did a few videos on it. It is, I got to say, I've only played a handful or a small batch of PC games that was supposed to be card and dice versions of the game. This one by far I feel is the best. I feel like I'm playing cards and dice. You can roll your own dice and input it if you want. You can, spin the dice on the computer. You follow along on the cards, the action cards. I'm not even a basketball guy. I could follow everything that was going on in this game. Okay, there were a couple little things that I wasn't sure of, but it was like minor stuff, and I just went to the directions of the chart and I kind of figured it out. And so that's the idea. Like, when we talked about games grabbing you right away, when we talked about that first impressions. Yep.
Yeah.
First impressions was like, wow, I can see this. I roll the dice, I follow the call, and what I like is all the results are on the cards pretty much. So if you roll a 5-3, let's say, and that might be a basket. So whoever takes the shot, boom, it's good for 2. Then the other team brings it up, and the fast action cards flip on the table in front of you. You can do a full court press. You can do a fast break. You can set up for a 3-point shot. You can slow the game down. So there's all these different options you have in the game, and then you flip the card to see what happens, and then you roll the dice, and it tells you, okay, you're in column 2, so that means it's a shot. Column 3 is, someone's trying to block the shot. Column 4 is a pass. And so you get to learn that each column does something different, and so you start to learn what's happening in the columns. And then sometimes you need to roll the third blue die to determine, are you taking a 3-point shot, or are you taking a 2 and it's automatically good? Is it blocked? Is it not? Is there a foul on the play? And everything just made so much sense. I followed it, and just the idea that I could roll the dice on the table and input it, that made me feel like I was playing cards and dice.
And that's part of it. You can do that with the PC Replay Baseball too. You can roll your own dice, and that is the magic of a Richard Hanna game design, because he had a few of his own games out, but Second and 10 is based on the card and dice game First and 10, the most complex game I think I have ever tried to play solo. First and 10, the replay series, basketball and baseball, the golf, ASG golf is a Richard Hanna design. The tennis game, time travel tennis, classic soccer. Again, these are all Richard Hanna designs, and they are pure card and dice.
Oh, jeepers, yeah. I mean, again, it felt like I was playing cards and dice because I followed the fast action cards. I followed the dice rolls. I followed what was going on the cards. Very rarely did I get lost. And if I got lost, I pulled out the directions of the chart and said, okay, that's what that is. Because I like to follow. I mean, I play, like I say, the Action PC is closed, so you don't know what's going on with that. But the Strat is open, and there's a couple other PC games that are kind of open engines. And sometimes I follow along and sometimes I don't. And so it's like, okay, great, this guy got a basket or this guy got a shot on net, but I'd like to know why. I just don't want to sit there mindlessly and just say, okay, this is what happened. I want to know why. Why did this roll produce this, and why did that roll produce that? And if I didn't roll this, what would happen? And you can do all that in this. And because it's a computer game, you can tell it just to, if you don't want to play every game, you just say, hey, simulate the game, and it keeps all your stats right there for you. So you're playing cards and dice, and the computer's doing all the heavy lifting for you.
Yep.
And so you can save it mid-game. You can jump into games. I'm just blown away, and I'm only playing the demo. Black.
I played a little bit of it. The nice thing about it is instead of just going from action card to action card, you read the action card and react. It lays out the steps for you. Okay, you can do A, B, or C. Choose which way you want to go. Boom, same card. Okay, now you roll for this. The one thing that caught me, and when I do get into it, because I think I will pick it up for the Black Friday thing, because it's also somebody's birthday, the day before. Not going to mention any names.
That's pretty good. So you're gonna get your wife some.
That's right, baby.
What? I'll get you any season you want. You're so special. You get your choice of season.
That's right.
Nothing says I love you like the '85 Celtics.
That's right. Someone turned 7 squared on Thanksgiving. I won't mention who that is. I realized that today, as a matter of fact. Anyway, is the fact that it's basics math. And so there was something, a free throw, I think I was trying in the demo. It's like 23. Oh, wait. If you roll a 2, you can roll up to a 2, 3, 4 to go in. So that kind of tripped me up. But then again, as soon as you get used to it.
Yeah. I'm still having problems with the blue dice because sometimes the defender has a 3. And I'm like, okay, is 1, 2, 3 a block shot, or is 1, 2, 3 a field goal?
I believe it has to be higher than the number that you see.
I think what they said is the lower the defender number, the better. So, like, some of the better guys have 1 defense. So if you have 1 defense, the only way the shooter can beat the defender is with a 1.
By rolling a 1.
So yeah, if you have a 5 or 6 on defense, then you're not going to make the play. So I'm still getting used, because some of those games, the intuition is to roll higher than the number, but sometimes you need to roll lower, like in the play games. You know what I mean? You want to roll lower than the number. So
our friend of the channel, Todd B, had a great replay going before his computer busted for replay basketball.
Oh, I was streaming this, and Todd was in there saying this is a great game and blah blah blah, and I remember that, and that's too bad. Yeah,
it's one of those things where, when of the big 4 sports, basketball is probably 4th. Don't hate it, but I'm not going to go out unless it's Christmas Day and it's just me. I'm not going out of my way to sit down and watch a basketball game. It's just not something that, at this point, I used to love college basketball. Now it's just minor league basketball, and I don't really care about that. But if you give me, like you, if you give me a way to get interested and hooked on it, make me feel like I'm a part of it. And so if you're a basketball fan, the new version of Action PC basketball is, as I said earlier, the best, I think, of the series. And I'm going to buy this. It'll be my 3rd basketball game that I own, not the 13 baseball games or anything like that.
Well, this would allow you to play cards and dice without the cards and dice in front of you. Exactly. So this is an ideal game for you. If you're a cards and dice guy, and me, and like I say, sometimes you want to play PC games, and sometimes you want to play cards and dice. This does both for you, and it keeps all your stats for you, and it's right there. It's just, I can't speak highly enough about Replay PC Basketball. I really, really like the demo. I can't wait to pick it up. I'm hoping that sale's really good so I can pick up a handful of seasons and play that. But just the idea that I could follow the game, first impressions.
And that's key. And that really is key, because one of the things that we've talked about a lot on this show is flow.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't understand, or something breaks up the flow of it, in particular
and this game flows, Ron, and in a way that it's not a pass by pass or a play by play game.
It's a highlight game.
It's a highlight game. It's almost like a possession game. I mean,
possession by possession game.
So you get the ball. Sometimes you do pass and just flip over the next action card. Sometimes you take the shot, but it moves along. And I did some streaming with it. And in case you're interested, it doesn't have any pop-ups, I don't believe. So you can stream it from like OBS or something without having to worry about a window pop-up, because I've been streaming. I got the Streamlabs OBS because my streaming software finally just won't connect to YouTube or Facebook anymore. And that was my go-to thing there. So I was like, what do I do? Do I do XSplit or OBS? So I found Streamlabs OBS, and I got that to work. But when I played some Strat hockey, anytime the card pop-up came or any kind of decision box, that's a second window, and that's not picked up in OBS because OBS doesn't recognize these as games, so to speak. So you gotta,
that's a whole other.
Yeah. So I was, but in this game here, there's no pop up, so you're able to capture that particular window and play the entire game if you want to stream it with OBS, which was nice. Whereas Strat, I had to really fight to get that to work and work around that. And again, that's another show. Well, I did get everything to work really well in Streamlabs, though. By the way, and I liked Streamlabs too. It has a lot of these little bells and whistles my other software didn't have, and so this is fantastic, cutting through the scenes and the whole bit. So Streamlabs is my new software for streaming. But yeah, so PC Replay Basketball is the one window, and I think that you're not going to have any pop-ups that
I'm not sure. I
don't think there was. I think when I tried it out, it was pretty darn smooth. So
I will say this about the baseball game before we move on is that it is, I think, one of the more complex games, and I mean that in a good way. It's not just roll for the result and go from there. There's other variables. But the way that it plays out on the computer, again, it's unobtrusive. The flow is there. Mm-hmm. So you can see where each decision is being made and what you can and what you can't do. And so it feels more than it feels more like a three-dimensional game as opposed to. There's nothing wrong with card and dice baseball. I play a lot of it, but this one is more than react and record. This one,
yeah. There's some decisions to make. Yeah,
there's some decisions to make.
Yep. So the only other thing I really did, I'm back. I'm still playing my Strat PC Hockey 90-91 Bruins. Still playing that season there, having some fun with that. And on the tabletop, pulled out Hockey Blast again. I got that game flowing. I need to do a new video on that because some of my older videos for Hockey Blast was when I was just learning it and just learning how to do the play. I call it the play way because play games are so different than every other tabletop game. And so what it took me a long time to really get in that mode. And now that I'm in that mode, I got that game flowing. And even the other night, I found something I was doing wrong in the game when I really read the fine print of the game, so I corrected that. So every day that game becomes a little bit smoother for me. I just had a heck of a journey with the Hockey Blast. In the beginning was really rough, but I stuck with it. We talked about first impressions last week, and that's one game that I'm glad I stuck with because I really, really am enjoying Hockey Blast. And I'm trying to figure out a long-term project to do with that. Most likely I'll take a team and just play all the games and see what their record is compared to what their record was in real life. So I'm thinking about doing something like that. I picked up the WHA season they had. I think it was 72-73. And the game I played was Jerry Cheever's first game with the Cleveland Crusaders. They took on the Quebec Nordiques. And in my replay, I think Cleveland won that game, and in my replay, they crushed them 8-2. It was really, really fun. The third line guys were scoring left and right on Quebec. It was kind of a fun game. So, so that's kind of what I've been playing. So
there you go.
Yeah. So shall we jump into the topic of the day? All right, here we go.
And when we say cutting into your gaming time, for Dave, every time I talked to him last week, it literally was cutting into his gaming time. How you doing? Rip. I'm doing fine, Ron. How are you? Rip.
It was. Yeah, no, I'd be sitting here in Studio C. We'd be chatting like this, and I'd be printing behind me, so I'd print the page and wheel over and pull it out and look at it. And because I ordered a bunch of two play seasons for Hockey Blast for, we talked about. So I had to print those out. I told you, I think I bought the 1970-71 season, and I actually got the extra cards for Strat, so I printed out all those. That's the one season. I wanted that season complete, so that is finally complete. But again, you're printing out the cards, and you're printing out the labels, and you're putting them on the envelopes, and you sit down. I had a stack of these I had to cut. I had to take a break. I was doing so much cutting. I had to take a break. And so I'm sitting there talking to you, and I'm like, is this fun? This is like, I went 3 nights without gaming because I was setting up to play. I was printing. I was cutting. I was doing my envelopes. I was making everything nice, and so many times I wanted to stop and play, but no, I kept going forward. So we want to talk about that today is that, you cut into your gaming time. I mean, how do you guys do it? I'm a completionist, so I like to make sure that all my cards are cut. all my cards are in envelopes. My envelopes are labeled, and then once that's done, I feel like I can go and play a game. I don't like to play a game if I still got like a stack of stuff to cut, or it's like, yeah, I'll just do that later. I like to get it done and have it look nice and neat. Maybe that's my OCD in on that. But I spend a lot of time cutting, and I cut into my gaming time. And like I say, I was talking to you the whole time, and like, you ever gonna play anything? It's like, I don't know. I still got 20 more sheets to cut, and
And the good thing is, when you're doing that type of work, once it's done, it's done. So if you go through 5 years from now, you're not going to have to reprint.
Yeah, no, you're right. Those are done. Yeah.
So they're all in the envelopes, and so once that prep work is done, it's done.
And now that's almost the required prep work too, because you have to print and cut unless you order the stuff in the mail. Okay?
But even if you get them pre-printed, on a lot of places, you've ordered enough strat sets, you still got to tear them.
Yeah.
And make sure, and there are some sheets where you might have Atlanta in the top half and Baltimore in the second half. And so it's not just 4 sheets per team, and you can do that. You got to go through and do it. And I think some of it is, especially if you like the game, you sit there and read the cards. And if you know how the cards read, you go, oh, look at that. Someone's Patrick Waugh got a goal on a 6. How the hell did that happen? As opposed to, oh, look, Kenny Dryden can only give up a goal on a 2, a 3, and a 10. You're not going to get a lot of goals, And
well, there is fun to be had in that, like you said, because I'm sitting there cutting some of the cards, and I'm looking at, oh, I remember this guy, and I remember this guy. And it's like,
exactly.
Oh, look at his stats, and look what he. Yeah. So there is a lot of nostalgia there.
When you whet your appetite for what you're about to get into.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like an appetizer. As much as it's not fun sitting there cutting and going through everything, you actually touch every player. And you look at every play. And there's some guys you have no clue. I don't remember this guy playing for Boston. Don't remember him at all. He played 30 games.
He played for, talked about this in the hockey stream the other night. I forgot. I knew that Doug Bodger played a long time for Buffalo. I didn't remember he played for Pittsburgh. He played for Pittsburgh. And someone goes, he's about to get traded. Like, oh, yeah. So it just kind of either brings back that flashback memory.
Well, one thing I didn't know is I was printing out, I don't remember if it must have been Strat. It was the extra cards for Strat in that season. PJet warning. I didn't know Gilles Meloche played a few games for the Chicago Blackhawks. And he was huge with the Seals and the North Stars, and then he went to Pittsburgh at the end of his career, but I guess he played a couple of games for the Blackhawks. I didn't know he did, and I guess he did okay. I don't know who he played, but his card was in there. It's like, holy cow, I got a Gilles Meloche card for the Chicago Blackhawks. So I wouldn't have known that unless I had cut the cards and went into the extra cards and was playing with them. Because if I just had Chicago in a pouch, I might have never opened it or whatever. But yeah, now I'm going through all the cards and I'm seeing that in the whole bit. So there is some fun to be had in there. At some point, it does become kind of a chore. It's like, oh, man, I just want to get this done. And
well, most people aren't buying 4 or 5 sets at a time, Gardner.
Yeah, sometimes.
Although some game company from Glen Head is doing free shipping with a $75 order this week.
Yeah, so sometimes that's why you have to bulk up when you can.
Or sit there and do them all on the same night. I think for a lot of people, it's especially for the print and play things. Okay, so let's say I'm doing a Canadiens thing. Obviously, I'm going to cut the Montreal cards and get them ready. But if I'm not playing Los Angeles for the first 30 games, I might not get to them. I'm going to do the team, do the team by team as you need them. And it kind of, again, whets your appetite for the game, makes you a little more familiar with how they should play.
But see, then you get into the old, like my old manager used to say, the sock, shoe thing. Okay? Mm-hmm. He always said I was a sock, shoe guy, meaning I put on one sock and the other sock, and then I put on one shoe and the other shoe. Some people put on a sock and a shoe, and then the other sock and the other shoe. So if you follow sock, shoe, or sock, shoe guy.
Yeah, no, I get it.
For me, if I were to leave teams undone,
that's your OCD though.
It would be, yeah. But I like I said, I put on my socks first, so I cut my teams. Then I can play my teams, putting on the shoes. So for me, I like this. I've always been that type of guy. Let me get the work done, and then I can relax because it's not there. Because if I know I got a stack of cards to go, I'm not going to enjoy playing that game because I just want that work done. I want to chop all the wood before I sit in front of the fire. Because then I know, because once I sit in front of the fire, I ain't going to go want to chop any more wood type of thing. So for me, I like to get it all done there. So as far as the setup goes, sometimes it can be fun going through the teams. Other times it can be a chore. I guess it depends on how much you're doing there. I still got a whole baseball season that I never did anything with. I still got.
Everybody does that.
I got one to cut and one to separate, and I'm like, it's just when I go to play that season, maybe I will. But it's just funny that it's just been sitting there. It's like, oh boy, I didn't do anything with that. But getting on to so let's talk about before we get to the, some of the other setup stuff is statistics. Is there was I did a replay one time hockey playoffs, and I was keeping all the stats, and I forget what game I used. It was a tabletop game, and I was having fun for a while keeping the stats.
You're doing shootout.
Was it shootout?
I believe you did shootout.
Yeah, it had something with players on there, and I was keeping goals and assists.
You can record goals and assists.
Yeah,
all that.
And so, yeah, it definitely wasn't a quick play game because I had to have some player stats. And I did the first round, and I was like, wow, I just spent an hour or two playing games, and I just spent 3 hours doing stats. And I was just like, there was so, and now, granted, once you get out of the first round, there's a lot less games, but I got so tired from doing the stats from that first round that I stopped doing the stats. And I just played the game and had my final score because I was just like, man, it just, for whatever reason, doing it manually, dropping them into Excel, I could see how it could be fun, but at the same time, boy, that really cut into my game time. And I kind of lost interest. I kind of lost interest in keeping the stats for that project because it was cutting in the game time. It was tiring me out. It's like, man, I could have played another couple of games and enjoyed the game rather than all this extra stuff with stats.
And I think you're going to get some pushback on people from that because I think for quite a few people, that is part of playing the game. Going through, and if you're playing a baseball series, taking those 3 score sheets and putting them on the computer to get it. Or, I still read of people who keep stats in notebooks. They actually literally keep them by hand and have things from years past and that. And it's kind of, again, helps keep them in touch with whatever season it is that they're replaying, making sure that the Harmon Killebrews or the Bobby Orrs or the Bill Russells, that you still keep up with that. I've done that some. I've used Ball Stat and Ball Score when I do kind of the card and dice computer type, pure card and dice computer on the PC replays. And it's kind of fun to keep score during the game. Then all you do is you send it and it automatically does the computations for you. Again, it's a way to keep, I think for a lot of people to keep involved. But because so many games are now computerized, I mean, I'll take a look at the stats, but I'm not going, oh, wow. So-and-so was 6-1 in my 1944 replay or whatever. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's kind of nice. And so, I do it to kind of get a track to see if the game engine is doing what it should be doing. But I'm not doing all that extra just to say Carl Yastrzemski's hitting 305 when he should, for that. Now, the computer does everything for you. And so that makes it a lot easier to sit there and go through, oh, well, so-and-so is doing this and so-and-so is doing that and it's going to do better than what we thought they were going to do. But no, when I was in college, we would take our hockey games when we were in a league or baseball games and go through with a score sheet and enter them in there. And so that was kind of cool. But again, You're talking about sock, shoe here. This is more of a sock, shoe. So you wouldn't be doing them for 40 games at once because that's ridiculous. But you do it for 1 or 2 games at once.
Well, what I did with that project is I would play the series. And then I would input the stats and play another series and put in the stats. Right. And it was just, but it's stuff you talked about before. It's like, there's no wrong way to do this.
Absolutely no wrong way.
So if you want to do a game and put in stats, then that's your prerogative, and maybe depending on the project. There's some projects I do that I do keep stats and I want to see what happens. There's other projects I just want to see who wins the game. and I would rather play 2 or 3 projects than one and keep the entire stats for that product, if you follow what I'm saying. Because again, if I'm going to spend 4 hours doing stats, that cuts into my gaming time, so I could actually play 2 more games instead of keeping stats. So depending on the project, depending what I'm looking to get out of the project, depending just on a lot of different things, there might be times that I will do stats, and there's times that I won't do stats. It all depends on what you want out of that project, I think there's I'm not going to mention the name of the game, but there's a couple of games I'm going to be playing that I feel like the stats are kind of tacked on. And so it's like I'd rather not do that. I'd rather go to a game that I feel like the stats are a part of what you're playing there, instead of like rolling dice after the game to see who got assists and goals or hits or whatever. I'd rather, while I'm playing the game, see it all play out. So there's some games, if it's going to be tacked on stats, and I'm not going to keep the stats. If there's other games that I feel like the stats are accurate because that's what happened during the game, then that's what I'll do. So I think there's no wrong way to do it. I think it depends on what you're looking to get out of the project, how like I say, how crazy you want to be, and how much you do want to cut into your game. Because maybe doing all those stats are fun for you. It might be fun for you. So the other thing is beyond, cutting the cards and printing them and the whole bit and labeling and getting them all right, if you want to do it that way, and then keeping the stats. There's also the tabletop setup. There's been a lot of people that have posted pictures on our Digital to Dice Facebook group and in other groups I belong to, and in Delphi and the whole bit. Holy cow, it is impressive what they've done on their table. And I can't imagine that was something that they just whipped together. There's some guys, that have nice stadiums, or, just the way it's set up. It's just they set the mood. I mean, they got the candles going and the glass of wine. It is the mood is set. And so,
you know what else they don't have? They don't have 3-year-old kids running around.
Yeah. At least not in that room. Not in that room. So there's some people that are set up in the corner. Some people have a big setup. I've seen some people set up in the kitchen and have everything laid out, and so all that takes time too. So
put away for Thanksgiving dinner, you're fine.
Yeah, I mean sometimes you got a bigger game like the history.
War game, I don't know how you would leave those.
Yeah, the war games. Yeah, you need a lot of setup for that. But even History Maker Golf took up a good chunk of my table upstairs, and I would go to bed and just leave it there. And like I say, I don't have kids that are going to wreck it or whatever like that. But so sometimes there's the game setup, and then there's the extra stuff. I see a lot of people, they get the little baseball helmets or the football helmets when they stream. I do that sometimes too. Sometimes I put that stuff even when I don't stream. Yeah, I got I bought some old school helmets off of eBay, and when I play my old football games, I pull them out. I like to decorate. And
I think again, that's a thing for immersion. It helps you, as you said, set the mood, get the candles, open up the bottle of Chianti and all that. It kind of blends into, how much prep work do I do for a computer replay, even if I'm just doing it from my own pleasure. Ballparks, logos, pictures.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is you do a lot of the PC streaming, as other people do too, and sometimes you see people that just with a generic setup. It's just, if it's Montreal, it's M. If it's Boston, it's B. And it's just a generic field and everything. And they play and they enjoy it because they're getting gaming time in. There's other people like you go crazy with the player photos in some of your games and the fields, and you get everything just right. And
it takes about, because I did it all for the hockey season, even if you don't see every team play Montreal this year. And I think it was about, for the 21 teams, it was about 2 minutes per team. So 45 minutes, you go through, you put in the name of the team because the city name is there. So when you unzip a generic Dave Cook hockey season, it's Montreal, okay, with the generic logo and the generic rink. And so what I do for each team is, okay, Montreal Canadiens, and I have the logos all in a file. Those files are pretty unruly. They look like East German armpits. And I was trying to make you laugh while you were taking that drink. East German. So you know where they are, and so you put the logo in. I do the the horizontal rinks because it plays better for me, and there's not enough in the chalkboard to go all vertical yet. And I'll do a home uniform and I'll do a road uniform because at one point they're going to pop up on the screen. But again, just kind of like reading the cards when you're cutting them or putting the cards in the envelopes, it whets my appetite for what's about to come, that you see everybody like, oh yeah, I remember that logo, or oh yeah, that jersey, or no, that one's not right. The Kings and that year went to the black and silver, ripping off the Raiders.
Yeah, no, I do the same thing. As if I'm going to play a season, especially with the hockey, I'll go in there and I'll put in, change all the team names. I'll put in the logos. I'll put in the uniforms, and you spend like an hour or so getting that season ready. The only time I don't do that is if I'm in a season, and the game really don't matter at this point, and I'm just going to play the one game. Sometimes I won't do anything. I'll just go and just let it ride generic. And other times, and sometimes for that one team, that the two teams that are playing, I'll put in the court or the rink or the field, and then their logo. So, but I mean, if there's sometimes like when it's like, okay, I'm just going to do this quick game between whatever Baltimore and Minnesota for whatever sport, don't matter. I'll go put their logos in for that game because it makes me feel happy. But I won't go do the whole season unless I'm going to play more games.
Right. No, I've done that too.
But yeah, so there's a lot of setup that goes on, even on the computer, and that cuts into your gaming time too.
Well, I don't consider that cutting into my gaming time. It's all to be part of the process of because once it's set up, you don't have to go back.
No, but what my point is that 45 minutes to an hour that you did setting up, you could have been playing, even in generic mode. You could have been playing, so that cut into your gaming time because you want to make your game better. Mm-hmm. So and going back to cutting the cards, I mean, I could just cut them and throw them in a box, but I cut them, put them by team. I try to make sure they all look nice. I put them in an envelope. I label the envelope, and
you throw them into a box once, and that will cause you to rip out the remaining hairs in your head trying to figure out how to resort them. So that's why you do.
Yeah, no, and what I like to do too is when I go to pull out the cards to play, I say, okay, what year do I want to play? And I look, and I just grab the bag from that season. Then I can look at the two teams and say, okay, I'm going to play these two teams.
Our friend Chris, Tabletop Delaware, has in his gaming room, has all these boxes that they're labeled. And so if he wants to play APA 1910, he just goes and grabs that box, and all the envelopes are there, and it's just easy to do. And he's made it part of his visual display from his studio. That's quite cool.
Yep.
So no, there's no right or wrong. Again, there's no right or wrong answers there.
I think the more time you put into your prep or your setup, the more immersive it's going to be. Again, because when you play a game and you see the logos and you see the or the fields or something to that effect, rather than this something generic. Even when I play, Hockey Blast or Strat Hockey, I'll pull out something with the team's logo on it and put it on the table. I won't go completely crazy unless I'm streaming. Then I like to do a really nice setup the right way. But even for myself, I just like to. I like to kind of see things, the eye candy of it.
It's funny because for Strat, I won't do any of that. Because I want the card and dice experience. I have enough games that can give me bells, whistles, colors, pictures, what have you. But when I really want to relax and just do a card and dice thing, although I do have the ballpark selected for the color ballparks for Strat, I really just want to go back to that simple time of the cards and the dice and rolling the dice. And so for that, I know what the Red Sox logo was. I just have to look around my room about 40 different places. It's there. So I don't need to have it again right there. And again, that's just my preference. You put the logos on the rinks and all that and the Strat, and like, nope, I'm here just to play the damn game. And again, on the other hand, for Action PC, absolutely, rinks and logos and pictures. And again, it depends on... Because for that, especially with a closed engine, you're looking for the game to be an immersive experience. I would love those rinks that have the ads on the ice, because when I started watching hockey, that was started to be the ads along on the boards. And so, sure, you want to show me a picture of the form in the early 90s when it's Coke and IGA and Provigo ads there, that's really going to bring me back, because when I'm not quite sure of the players or the puck's just kind of going around, it gives you something to look at. And at one point, you could have said, "Oh, giving me the name of whatever regional store," and I would have said, "Oh yeah, that's in Calgary." It's one of those things. Whatever. Again, I mean, a lot of this is about nostalgia, to begin with, and so whatever it is that makes you immersive, and if it's sitting high above there, squinting down, looking at it, or in my case, what is going to be close to giving me that experience of playing that I did when I watched on television.
Yep. And so, I mean, yeah, so I think the setup, it does cut into game time, but maybe it makes it better. And we have a mutual friend who does a lot of like model trains.
Yes.
And he spends a ton of time getting everything just right so he can run that train around his basement one time.
He's even made Miller High Life billboards.
Yeah. Yeah.
To scale.
Yeah, and it's
because
just
there's an exact scale with that. That's not by happenstance. There's an exact scale that says that 2 of these inches equals X, and yeah, it is beautiful work. The detail in it is beautiful.
Yeah,
and it's better than just running it over baseboards.
Yeah, and so he goes crazy with that, and that's his enjoyment. And I think we kind of do the same with some of our things here, whether it's on the table or on the computer. But yeah, so we want to know from you, the audience. We want to talk about your prep, your setup for the game. Keeping stats and the whole bit is, how much of that is fun? Does it feel like work? How much of that do you actually do, or is that just part of, like Ron said, is that part of the process that makes it fun? Because I've seen, some very simple layouts, and people can bang out game after game after game, and I've seen some pretty complex layouts that if you were going to set that up every time, you'd be playing less games that day. So, we want to know where is your balance with all this? Would you rather play more games just in very basic, or do you want to really set it up and create the atmosphere and light the candles and have that intimate feeling going there, but knowing that you'll probably play less games because you've cut into your game time?
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts before we wrap this up there, Ron?
No, I think, and again, there's no wrong answer. It all depends on what you want. And don't be jealous if you see people with dice towers and mini stadiums. It's, hey, however you want to play it works.
Yep. It just, as long as it's fun for you, and that one game that I was playing that I was keeping a stat, that it stopped being fun for me. So I stopped, and no worse for wear. I finished the project out. I had fun. I had a very unusual winner from what I remember. But I just didn't have final stats of who was the playoff leading scorer or anything like that. But, something I was okay with that because it just became too much for me. So anyway, so let's wrap things up, shall we?
Yes.
All right. This has been, episode 64, right?
The Beatles edition, because, yes, we'll still feed you that god-awful pineapple pizza on episode 64.
All right, episode 64, Digital to Dice. You can find us digitaltodice.com, digital-to dice.com is where we park all the shows over on Spreaker. 978-751-DICE is how you can send us a text, 978-751-3423. Send us a message on that. I don't think we had any new messages this week. We read the last one on the streaming last week, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/group/digital-to-dice is where you can comment on all the stuff that we talked about here. And on my YouTube channel, Dave Gardner Videos, is where we put the podcast as well on YouTube. So feel free to chime in there as well. So a couple different places to get your feedback here on the show. And again, next week is our Black Friday episode where we try to find who's having the sales and what's going on with that. So if you know of anybody, or if you are a game developer, and we've already had a few get a hold of us, please get a hold of us as soon as you can. Reply here, text us in there, 978-751-DICE, or Facebook or YouTube, and let us know what's going on so we can talk about it next week, so we can get the word out to everybody in the gaming world that listens to this show. So All right. Ron, thanks for joining me today.
As always.
And what are the big plans? Any big plans coming up for you?
Not before we tape again, no.
Not before you tape again? Yeah, me either. I'm just going to play some games. Now that my prep and my cutting is done, I'm going to play some games.
You can actually play.
I can actually play. So we'll talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.